Administrative team?
All right, don't forget anything. I wanted to highlight a few things that have been happening this summer at the high school. And the first one, I guess, is a recognition with the coaches and the advisors that are sponsoring the weight room and fitness summer conditioning. On average, we have over 100 students participating every morning in some type of summer weight room or summer conditioning with, I guess, 2 different sessions for the high school plus a section of middle school. So really exciting to see so many kids, even during the summer at the high school. We also have our first round of credit recovery was completed, and then a couple things that are going to be happening soon. The Cavaliers Drum and Bugle Corps will be practicing at our facility complex. Actually, they're going to get in about 5 in the morning, and they're going to practice until about 3 in the afternoon, where they're in between stop between a competition in Indiana and a competition in Iowa. So excited to have them, I guess, take advantage of the awesome facility that we have. And then I guess the last thing I had, just a quick recognition of Kaylee Klein and Jordan Belkin for the work that they've been doing in preparing our digital recognition board, which is going to be featured in our new common space. A lot of behind the scenes stuff that has to happen, pictures being taken and profiles being updated. That's been a lot of Kaylee's work this summer, and Jordan's been helping out a lot as well. So excited to see that continue to come together. Thank you.
So I got some, I didn't say it before, but it was exciting today to see up at the activities complex that there was 2 local businesses that got their sponsorship information up, and it was Mountain City Bank and Bob Hundhausen, Edward D. Jones. And it's really nice to see that coming together for the community and the school, obviously, because that should help support that complex for the very near future and hopefully far into the future. So it was exciting.
Jim?
So is that up on the scoreboard things?
Those 2 are,
Yeah.
put up today.
I would like to reiterate the significance of the Cavaliers Drum and Bugle Corps coming to Platteville. This is a national champion outfit. The Green Bay Packers of Drum and Bugle Corps. And they saw our facility and contacted us and said, hey, can we use it? And we couldn't be more happy. We couldn't be more happy. It's such a significant event for our music students. If you are at all interested or fascinated by what a marching band does, spend an hour up there, whatever time, from I think it's 1 to 2, they're going to go through a rehearsal of what show they have put in. It is mesmerizing, and it's impressive the work that they put in. The second thing, I like to reinforce what Kurt had said. One of our goals with the activity complex, with the donation towards the video board, was to use that as a way to generate funds to help maintain the activity complex. So we have 4 spots for that Hillman Pride sponsorship level. We have 2 filled. We are going to take the celebrations that we had today, push it out, and continue to recruit and see if we can get 4. So that's a significant day for the school district, what happened today, this morning. Thank you.
All right, opportunity for public input. Do we have anybody signed up? Okay, then we will move on to information and discussion items and start it off with a referendum update.
Referendum updates, there are a lot of pictures. I would like to reinforce we are on schedule. We had another meeting. It was Wednesday, which means we meet, and on schedule and within budget. There are certainly things that keep popping up, but our contingency fund is in a good position to where they've demoed everything that I can think of that we have to demo. So those contingency items that spring up should continue to slow down. It's really coming together, and it's exciting that this fall, when we start our school year, we'll have some grand openings. We'll have time capsules. And we're going to celebrate that. And we're going to make sure our community can be proud of and know what this capital effort did for our students. The budget discussion, it had started off loading up a couple of calendars, looking the survey to begin with. The survey's been distributed. Survey deadline's July 17, give them 2 weeks. They report back to the board. The purpose of the survey is to ask our community, what would you do? What would you support? We get that information back, and that drives us in the direction that we need to take as a school district. This is from Quarles and Brady, who handle the legal end of hosting an operating referendum if we choose. And the key date here is August 23. In order to be on the November ballot, the board has to make a decision prior to August 23rd, whether or not they're going to do, and then if they are, what are they going to do? And then July 1st came around, in which our state released the state aid estimates for all the schools in Wisconsin. And that is something that the board is aware of. And what I'd like to do is take the opportunity to work through using the whiteboard, but then also work through those 10 statements and explain their significance so the board has a better understanding. And if there's something that you're not in full understanding of, now is a good time to discuss this. So rule number 1 is to avoid getting, in anything school finance, avoid getting one number and making declarations based on that one number. You're talking just in our district alone, the revenue limit around $17 million. 421 other districts in the state. The state has to handle all of this. So you can't just take one number and make an absolute statement. So I want us to caution against that. But to help clear up what this estimate that was provided on July 1, the key word that I want everyone to walk away from tonight with a better understanding of is the revenue limit. State of Wisconsin school funding back in 1992, 1993, they set revenue limit that's what they're going to do. That is all the revenue that a school can capture or is allowed to have from the state. We have $22 million budget. Of that, our revenue limit is $17 million. So that's a big amount of what we spend, or what we're allowed to spend expenses. Then we have the revenue limit. Our revenue limit is really linked to how many students we have. If you are a district in which students are being added, your revenue limit can increase. Same thing if they're going down. If your student is level, well, it kind of stays the same. The revenue limit does make subtle adjustments. We've had this slide a couple of times before. Dig back in your Rolodex of PowerPoint slides. 2009, 2010, the state of Wisconsin determined that the revenue limit would no longer be coupled with consumer price index. Broke them apart. Up until that point, the revenue limit would rise along with the CPI amount. It hasn't done that. That's been quite some time. It wasn't that big a deal when the CPI was 1%, 0.5, 2, wasn't, I mean, you could manage that. You could weather that. In comes COVID, in comes inflation. Now that it's not coupled, you still have this revenue limit that just isn't reacting to the needs that it takes. So a public school like ours, we provide a free and appropriate public education to all of our students, every student, every day. Much like everything else over the past 3-4 years, that cost has gone up. but our revenue limit is not reacting quickly enough to it. The revenue limit is split into two parts. So this stays, in that it can be state aid or local property taxes. So if we have, if our revenue limit is 10, this is an example, just 10. In Platteville, in prior years, our balance between state aid and local property taxes for a while was about 50-50. So in that, you could apply this to our situation and say our state aid would be 5 of the 10. That's what the state is providing. And local property taxes would be 5. So how do they determine state aid? On July 1, they provide an estimate. This estimate is based on last October, when we had our annual meeting, proposed budgets. That's one of the elements poured in there. So let's wiggle in there and find a flaw with that. Our proposed budget had us with a 1.4 million amount of deficit spending. As we've closed out the year, we've been able to reduce that, and now it's closer to 1 million. But the state, they have to use whatever numbers they have. I'm not faulting them, that's just the system that they're in. And so they had to use that we were deficit spending that 1.4 million. And so that estimate is really just that. It's not updated. On October 15, every year, what I like to envision is there one person in a basement office with no windows, and above his door is the grand equalizer. And what the state does is they go through all 421 districts and they estimate property values. And they want to make sure that schools are getting a fair shake when it comes to state aid. If you apply this to Platteville, they were saying our property value compared to and work with all of the other districts, it'd be fair that local property taxes pay half, state aid will give you half. Some examples that we'll get into later are more extreme, in which it isn't half. So the revenue limit in our imaginary scenario here is 10. On July 1st, the state had to release, here's how much state aid's going up or down for your districts. Our number was plus 900,000. That's the estimate. That means if we apply that to this fictional item here, if our state aid is going up, let's say it makes it up to 6. Revenue limit, the most important thing tonight, stays at 10. The result then is that the burden on local property taxes towards financing your schools is now 4. Go back to when we've had conversations with our state representative, state senator, and they are stating we are putting more money into education. They're correct. I agree. But they're not budging on the revenue limit. When July 1st, when that statement came out, too many people looked at 900,000 and said, oh, we're good then. No, not at all. If they were to say we're going to raise the revenue limit, I'm in. But that wasn't the situation on July 1st. And now we have to, as a district, our role as a board, as employees, is to help inform people. The key in all of this is the revenue limit. That is what is causing our district to consider an operating referendum. It's what causes almost all of our neighboring districts to consider, and throughout the state. We'll have a real good idea after August 23rd who else is in the same situation. So the second item, when it comes to the equalization aid, it does have two reasons. To reduce the reliance of schools on local property taxes, that's the state aid, but then also to guarantee that every student, no matter where you're born, no matter where you live in the state of Wisconsin, the system is designed to give every kid an equal chance at a solid education. That's why they equalize that aid. And number three, we're back to that revenue limit formula. And what that one is discussing are the different ways that the scales are balanced, much like we talked about here. So I'd asked Dimitri, can you tell me, Lakeland Union High School, North Central Wisconsin, Minocqua School District, land values very high. So in Minocqua, or Lakeland Union High School, in state aid, they received last year $13,465.
That's it.
The property tax burden was $12.2 million. That's a function of equalizing that land value. The school district of Beloit, their equalized aid was $61 million, which is 86%. And their tax levy was $10 million, 14%. So you can kind of see how that equalization process works. They assess the property values. Here's my point I want to make with this. In Platteville, when I interviewed 5 years ago, I looked at where is this teeter-totter at with Platteville, and it had been 50%, 49%. Over the last 2 years, we're real close to 60 state aid, 40 local property taxes. I'm deducing from that, when they equalize property values around the state, in Platteville, the Platteville School District, they are determining that our property just isn't as valuable as it once was. It's not just what we've done, it's not just our fault. That's across the state, how they do this every year. But we're trending to more state aid than local property taxes. And when they release on July 1st that our state aid is going up 900,000, that supports my theory, that we're heading in that direction. More of a state aided district significantly rather than relying on local property taxes. Looking at number 4, it's the key point, what they're trying to communicate there is it's a different data set when we come to October. The state's doing the best they can to produce this estimate on July 1. But it's not really reliable, verified data. On October 15th is when it'll be really close to what we're getting. And I just found out this past week through conversation, it really isn't done until June of next year is when now it's done. The difference between October, like in our case of October 24 to June 25, subtle. They're pretty close. But there are wild swings that can happen from July 1 estimate to the October 15. So don't take that 900,000 and say, wait, that's done. That number will change. Number 5, remember it's based on students. In the last biennial budget, per student increase, $325. We have 1,550 students. Rough math is it's about $500,000. Now, that's how much our revenue limit increased last year. And that is in the state budget how much our revenue limit will increase again next year. At face value, you're looking at that amount going, great. Until you factor in, well, we have salary, we have benefits, the key being health insurance. As a district, 3 years ago, we switched from court to dean. This is the third year we're looking at. We will go out again, and all indications, listening to other districts that have had to go out to bid, we're not going to come out ahead. Health insurance continues to be an economic burden, and it continues to grow at a rate that the revenue limit just isn't supporting. As I worked on number 5, what happens in the next budget? What happens in 25 and 27? We can look back and try and predict, okay, the trend is. The problem with school budgeting and school finance is we get a hard reset every 2 years, and we have to react accordingly. But yet, we want to plan 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And the state budget can be volatile. It can make significant changes. The price of education in the state is their number one expense. Our state spends more on education than any other budget item they have. So little subtle differences ripple down to school districts, make a big difference. Number 6, when they're talking about the school tax levy credit, this one, it's getting pretty intricate. And we're talking the general rule with the school tax levy credit is that if you have high property school districts, they receive more of that tax levy credit. In my class at Viterbo, when I was learning how to be a superintendent, the person giving the presentation, Troy Gunderson out of West Salem, he was the professor, he called this the reverse Robin Hood. The school tax levy credit is a reverse Robin Hood. It would be much better served as opposed to, and we're going to get to categorical aid later. Let me back up. You have a decision to make. You can take money and put it into this school tax levy credit, which is not equal in its distribution. Or you could put it into state aid, in which the equalization process then at least has some merit. That's not how that tax credit works. The same thing if we go to number 7 with the per pupil categorical aid. Categorical aid is outside of the funding formula. It would be better served for all districts if that money placed in the equalization aid and then distributed. But it's not. Again, that benefits those districts with higher property values. Number 8, ESSER. Again, not part of the revenue formula, outside of, and we're done with it. It ends this September. We've invested it. So we're done. Number 9, Milwaukee Public Schools. This has been one that when you go and try and build an estimate, there is still the Milwaukee Public Schools issue right now. The fact that they passed an operating referendum, not impacting this estimate. What is, over the past couple of years, they have not submitted the correct numbers and have not done what they should have done. And I don't want to throw a stone at anyone, but the fact that that happened, they're a large district. When that number gets rectified on October 15th, that may change other districts because it's, 35, 40 million. So that's out there. And then finally, number 10, this is something that we have been really focused on and shouting from the rooftops. And that is, in 2002, we were in the nation 11th among making education for our students a priority. in that time, since that time, in 2022, when they did the data, we're below the national average and we're 25th. And here's the issue. Questions or comments?
My only question is to ask, all of this, the revenue limit, the state aid versus the local property taxes, is this what drives the mill rate? Is this what drives it?
Yes. So when we get to the local property tax amount, whatever that levy amount is, that then is distributed amongst all property owners, and then that comes up with that mill rate. So it's equalized in our community.
Got it. Thank you.
So using your example that you have up there, what we're asking, potentially asking the voters, is to take that revenue limit to an 11, which would make local property taxes a 5. And then the next year making it a 12 and making it a 6, and then going from there. Because what's costing our district right now is greater than 10, what we have up there.
Yes. So that is a logical conclusion with an operating referendum. And this is something that we can really focus in on and put numbers to at our next meeting. With a recurring operating referendum, that first year, that money that we collect would be outside of the revenue limit. It'd be out. That would be a flat increase above the revenue limit. But because it's recurring, every year thereafter, that amount of money gets put into the system. And then, let's say, using this example here, and again, I'm using general statements, but this is how the revenue funding formula works. If our voters say, no, our revenue limit's going to be 11. If we are at that time 60% state aid, 40% local property taxes, then you take 60% of 11. I really need someone to get the calculator.
6.6, right?
6.5, just go.
You guys weren't very good at math, but sure.
Just trying to make it easy.
It should have been 5.5.
Essentially raising the revenue limit the way that the aid works
like it's happening.
will increase the amount of state aid if it stays roughly where we're at in the trends that we've been going forward with.
Yeah. So let's go the extreme examples. If you were in the Lakeland School District, the burden would be completely on local property taxes. If we were in the Beloit School District, the state then would take the opposite. It's that, I keep going like this, and I don't even know what this means. Scales, a teeter-totter, however.
So essentially, if a district like a Beloit, given the example that you gave with the 8614, passed an operational referendum, it would force the state to give them more money with a less on the property, local property taxes?
Yes, but it has to be recurring.
Correct.
Because once you have it recurring, it's inside of, in the revenue limit.
And you taking the half an hour to explain this to us, no, that's good. No, what I'm getting at is it's beneficial for us. Ultimately, how do you convey that to the public then?
And that's why I think a good stepping stone is we got the revenue limit. That's the thing that is hampering our ability to deliver high-quality education for every student every day. The revenue limit is the key.
I think part of it is that inverse relationship you keep
Yep.
teeter-tottering in. And an inverse relationship is hard to understand when somebody says, you're going to get 900,000 extra dollars. Well, it's still going into the teeter-totter. People just think that that's not happening, but it is.
Yeah, it's revenue limit. They didn't announce we're raising the revenue limit. That's our limit for revenue from the state.
I
They
think,
did announce our district looks like it's going to accept more state aid, which would lessen the burden on your local tax fund.
in very few situations, organizations, personal, is there ever a situation where you're limited in how much you can earn? Or, receive, like how much revenue you can get?
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, look at Beloit. I mean, look at Beloit and I think
And-
there's, that's,
By an outside entity saying, you can't make more money this.
Right.
It's costing us more to do
Right.
our business.
And so I-
Stuff you can't make more money.
Right, I think that's, when you say, how do we communicate it to people? I mean, that to me is sort of the crux, is it's costing us X to run the schools. We are not allowed to take in more than this.
Without coming to you for a
Yes,
referendum.
without
Yeah.
coming to you for a referendum.
It's true.
Or reducing the expenses that
Yes.
you have.
That's-
We've already, and we've gotten creative with that in an attempt to already. Those were one-time things. The next time that you have to get creative, it gets,
Becomes a reoccurring expense.
and it becomes painful and starts affecting the education that we're providing. Okay.
Next time, we'll come up with another way to help represent the revenue limit and different ways to allow the board to confidently, when asked, give some real solid answers. That's our goal, to educate our community. Here's our situation. What would you support that we do? And we'll have the results from the survey for that first August meeting.
Thanks for taking the time and doing that. That helped a lot.
Is it possible for the next time to have, I understand these numbers here, but they are just basic rudimentary numbers, to have example real numbers? Is that possible to do? Not now. Not now.
he's going to turn it around.
Did you,
This isn't exactly what I made it, so I gotta show.
you set him up on this?
Revenue limit is this perfect circle. 17 million, rough numbers. This is 17 million. So it's not changing. But yet last year, here was our state aid, there's our local property tax, as far as that's the portion. If the 900,000 is accurate and the revenue limit stays the same, 17 million's the same, this just moved it this way a little bit. So there's a bigger piece of that pie. So that is something I can build on next time,
Okay. I like that.
and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was a whole week's worth of work for him, and you,
If he would have said, what's next, that would have,
That would.
oh, that would,
All right, any other questions on the budget discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the items on the consent agenda.
Within our consent agenda is the adoption of the consent agenda, minutes of previous meeting, the financial report and bills for the month of June 2024, in which total receipts, $4,899,447.89. Disbursements, $5,843,318.35. A special highlight would be to our bond portfolio management. When we started our capital project, there's a way to use bonds to generate more revenue. We started off with a prediction of 1.4, 1.6, somewhere in there, and we are almost there. It is July. Everything should be done in September. So we're close, and this number is held at that 1.45 right now. So that has behaved as advertised. Letter D would be our academic standards. This is an annual requirement of boards, and this academic standard document is vague. But it's a requirement that as a district, we post this and it's board approved. What we have done over the past 4 or 5 years is we have taken it to the grade level, to the subject level, and we have those essential learning outcomes. Those, our staff put those together throughout the last couple of years, really tied them together last year. A lot of hard work, a lot of tough decisions, because you just can't keep adding them. You have to determine what are the most important things when this child starts to when they leave, that they're going to be able to know and do. That is how we are going above and beyond what this is. And if not already, they should be shortly posted on our webpage. Letter E, the approval of the staff handbooks. There's a quick explanation of things that they worked on. The feedback we received was, let's get them synchronized and let's get them branded and let's share some of the same language throughout with those directions. These are the handbooks presented to the board.
Are these students or staff handbooks?
These are student handbooks.
Thank you.
CISA 3 contract is an annual event. CISA 3 serves 31 schools here in Southwest Wisconsin. When we started to look at how can we reduce costs, one of the things we thought we could do is CISA 3. Are there some things that we can limit? Let's hearken back to transportation. We reduced a bus route, which reduced cost, but Warco has costs that go up as well. So in the end, it wasn't as big a savings as we thought it would be. Same thing happened here with our CISA 3 contract. One of the things that I'm recommending that we drop would be the educator support system. Two reasons why I think we can do that. One is our investment in Engage Rocket to help with that HR side. And then also at the end of the school year, we sat down and we retooled our entire mentor-mentee program and made it more targeted and more accountability throughout. So I think we can absorb that with the work we're doing, not have to contract some of that out to CISA 3. The second thing reducing would be the Certainty Network. What that is a network of schools, not just CISA 3, they can go everywhere. But if you have a German teacher, a teacher who teaches German, and in that classroom in your school, you have 7 students. You can join that Certainty Network, and then other schools can send a kid, and it's it used to be cutting edge technology, but now it's kind of old hat, where you would sit and there'd be a camera and you communicate that way. It's just not used by our district. We are able to provide the breadth of curriculum in which it's not necessary. So that's another item that we're dropping. All told, we're breaking even though we are reducing some of those offerings. G, review of the comprehensive communications plan. This was in policy and community outreach. They forwarded it with some suggestions for improvement. We have put those improvements in. One of the things that helped was with the tragedy that happened at Mount Horeb in the spring, we didn't have that in our script. As far as when it happens in another district, what can we do to share with our parents so they feel that our school is safe? So that was another adjustment we made there. First reading of the policies were forwarded through. The adjustment that was asked of is included. And then it's a new hire middle school food service.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Colleen, to approve the items on the consent agenda as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion and a second, please, for the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Colleen, second by Steve, to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to action items. First one up, resignation in high school math.
I would recommend the board accept this resignation.
Second.
Motion by Betsy, second by Keisha, to accept the resignation of Elizabeth Moeller as high school math teacher as presented, and also assistant forensics coach. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to item B, new hire high school math.
Before we tackle letters B through F, for each one of these, there's been a process that's been followed, submitted to myself. We go through a screening, interview process, 2 rounds, make the offer. So that has been followed. You will note that there are 2 of these that are in-house movements. Those have, so right now we have 2 jobs left to fill in our district. If you'd have went 5 years ago and you had 2 jobs left to fill mid-July, panic mode. We're worried. Now, if we're mid-August, we're in panic mode. It's just how the landscape has changed. We do have qualified candidates for each of those positions that we will start to interview on Thursday. So I'm confident we'll be able to land those positions. But that, I would recommend each of the hires letters B through F as you work through them.
So move. Second.
We'll go motion by Matt, second by Keisha, to approve Vicki Peterson as the hire for the high school math teacher position as presented. Any questions or comments on that one? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. New hire for 8th grade special ed. It's been recommended to approve Robert Bendorf as the new 8th grade special ed teacher. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
I heard Colleen first for the motion and Ashley for the second. To approve the hiring of Robert Bendorf as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next one is looking for a motion and a second for Jay Geeson for the 8th grade social studies teacher.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Matt, to approve the hire of Jay Geeson as the new 8th grade social studies teacher. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next one is Amy McCullough for the new kindergarten special education teacher interventionist. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Betsy, second by Keisha. Back. To approve Amy McCullough as the new kindergarten special education teacher and interventionist as presented. Any questions or comments on that one? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the final one is, it's been recommended to hire Kendall Foley as the new 3rd grade teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Keisha, second by Ashley.
I have a question. So what remains open then? What are the two, through all the movements?
We have a 5th grade classroom teacher and then 8th grade English language arts.
So we have a motion by second, or excuse me, a motion by Keisha and a second by Ashley to approve the hiring of Kendall Foley as the new 3rd grade education teacher. Any other questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to interagency agreements.
Annual event in which the board can approve these counseling services to come into our school and serve our students. It's just so much more convenient for student, family, and the counseling services to meet the students here as opposed to transporting them off grounds, back to grounds.
So move. Second.
Motion by Matt, second by Steve, to approve the interagency agreements from Driftless Area Behavioral Services, CWM Counseling, Empowerment Counseling, and Southwest Counseling Agency as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. ARC proposal.
Program committee was provided an update on the ARC curriculum, the reading curriculum. We've 3 years installment. This is going to be an annual event. So you'll notice there's a 3rd grade group of books. That has been following. We have a larger than other classes, 2nd grade last year, going to be in 3rd grade. So we needed to have an extra classroom set of those books. 5th grade, instead of having 2 teachers, we've went to the self-contained classroom model. So now we need 5 sections, an additional 3 sets of books. And that's this cost. And these costs will follow, especially next year's 3rd grade. We'll be doing this next year as they go forward.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Colleen, second by Keisha, to approve the ARC proposal as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to building security.
When reviewing our building security, one of our points of concern is the main entrances of each building. Using that as a priority and being budgetarily conscious, we worked with our community resource officer at the Platteville Police Department, Building and Grounds, and we believe by applying this film to those windows at the entryway, it buys time in the event that somebody has really bad intentions in our school. This is not bulletproof. And my theory is, it's not a theory, my statement is, if you make something bulletproof, they're going to make a bigger bullet. What this film allows is time to respond. It doesn't allow the window to cascade down and shatter. That's the lesson learned at Sandy Hook. It also doesn't allow somebody to take a rock or some sort of blunt object and smash through a window. Buys us time. And this is the recommendation bringing forward.
A question. Does that hold true from the inside out then? If people needed out, that they wouldn't be able to get out as easily?
Yes.
But it's still the recommendation to do that, given, knowing that information.
You bet. Yep. Because if that's where the threat is coming from, hopefully people aren't trying to get that way. Yep.
And hopefully there's another exit
Yeah.
out of that area.
Safer way.
Yeah, safer way.
Exactly right. Yep.
This is why doors open out.
What?
So looking for a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, second.
Second, or Steve?
We'll go motion by Matt, second by Steve to approve the Safe Haven quote for building security as presented. Any questions or comments on that one? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Vehicle fleet.
New concept for the school district, and that is looking at leasing vehicles. Leasing versus owning. Financially, this is now a budgetable item. I think every year we've been here, in our budget, we've included $65,000 for a truck. We still haven't, we've tried. We haven't been able to secure a truck for our maintenance crew. So this becomes something that we can put in the budget and we can budget around. There's a higher safety, there's better safety when you have leased vehicles that are new for our students, and what we're considering leasing would be 2 10-passenger vans. As I stated earlier, we have a hard time getting vehicles, but if we use this leasing company, Ewald, they have it to where they get front of the line because they buy so many of them. Another item, in schools, we use 10-passenger vans a lot. Anything more than 10, there's a CDL requirement, and you're in a bus to do it legally. What our vendor is telling us, and what we've done other research, is they don't make 10-passenger vans anymore. They make 13-passenger vans. So they're no good to us. What this lease would provide the district would be purchasing a 13-passenger van, and then they remodel it to become a verified, certified 10-passenger van. They remove a seat or two, it goes through a check, it now becomes, ta-da, 10-passenger van. This is a new event for us. We're looking into it. We're starting with just 2 vehicles to lease. If this benefits us, and okay, this is something that the district would like to continue, we do have other vehicles that as they fail, we may consider leasing others. But I think my recommendation would to try this and see where it goes.
And they do all the maintenance, right? We get billed for it, but they.
It depends. That is an item that we can choose in which we're in a maintenance plan. And that would be one of our local service stations would be approved. And it would be an email process through Becky Hines, Director of Building and Grounds, going, here we go, we need an oil change.
And generally, a lot of those, with the maintenance plan, those are you schedule an oil change, and that oil change is taken care of through the maintenance plan in terms of there's very minimal or no additional cost. Correct. Is that correct? Yep.
That's
Just out of curiosity, for the conversion from the 12-passenger or 13-passenger vans going to the 10-passenger, does that give more leg space or allow for more luggage space?
luggage. They just pull out 2 seats.
Yeah.
That's good.
I shouldn't say just. Pulling out 2 seats is, I couldn't do it.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Betsy, I heard Steve first, to approve, on the second, to approve the Ewald vehicle fleet leasing program as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
So moved.
Motion. Motion by Kurt, second by Ashley to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:21.